Right again. Hey guys, welcome back to another NRL fantasy video. We're back with our co-host Callan and our special guest Jai. How are you guys?
Yeah, good, mate. Good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good to
that's
be
good.
back.
Yeah, welcome back, mate. Oh, we've really missed you here, and yeah, let's get into it. So, very first thing for us is yeah, talk us through the Daly Cherry Evans captaincy against the West Tigers on a Thursday afternoon. Is it crazy or not?
I think it's a great idea, to be honest. It's massive pod play. I can't turn away from Yo myself. I'm stuck on him. I think that it was either him or Carrigan for me, but I got DCE as well. I just don't have the balls to pull the trigger because he burnt me earlier in the year.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I just think they'll put a really good score on, and he's been playing pretty well of recent. So, yeah, I looked at one of his scores, which let's talk about him now as a buy. I looked at a couple of his scores, like against the Tigers, and just had the back end of seasons in his career, and he goes bonkers. Like last year, he went crazy. The year before, he went crazy. This is why I'm thinking that Daly Cherry Evans is a buy and a captain's option this week.
Yeah, I back it. I think it's massive. DCE being a buy in the back end, hey, that's always been pretty solid. He always goes pretty strong. And he's pretty low ownership considering. I'd imagine his ownership percentage will go up a little bit now with the Cleary injury, but yeah, the captaincy, I don't think if I had to take a punt, he'll be less than 2% captain this week. It's a massive pod play and heaps of upside as well.
Yeah. Do you have the guts to pull the trigger, Callan, or not really?
I don't have the guts to pull the trigger on DC. I'd rather go for a guy like Fafita, just more defensive stats there, and also an attackive guy. I feel like DC these days is more of that managing game management half, and is not as attackive. He really just sorts out those oppressive outside backs for Manly, and just I think he's definitely an interesting captaincy option and can go either two ways. He can get you that consistency of a 50, and you can be happy with that 100, or maybe 1 week you could go in for a try and you see there like you did around 586 points. So you can definitely get up into those high 80s. So definitely a big pod play.
Yeah. And there also is someone that I am interested in captaining. Where is he? His teammate, if I was an owner of him. Thomas Travojevic,
Ooh.
728k, break even of 30. I do think with their draw now, Tom does become a buy. And yeah, is there any interest in captaining him at all? Kind of seeing Tom playing better since coming back from his hamstring injury.
Oh, yeah, dude. Personally, I don't have any interest in captaining him, but that's just more or less a rule that I have. So, like, I think I've mentioned this before. I say it bloody all the time on our channel, but it's I never put a captaincy on jerseys from 1 to 5 just because they rely so much on attacking stats to get their scores. So it's like, oh, they have a quiet game or whatever else, they don't get the attacking stats you presume, well, then they're likely not even going to score a 50, which isn't like passable, in my opinion, for a captain. But in saying that, it's turbo against the Tigers, and it could be very, very likely to go massive. So yeah, I definitely recommend him as a buy. But personally, I wouldn't captain him just because I've been burnt so many times in my fantasy lifetime by doing that with captains on fullback.
Yeah. What do you
Yeah, I
think,
have to
Callan?
have to agree with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have to agree with that. I just Turbo. Just he's been playing consistent good footy at the moment, but I just don't see him as a captaincy option. And I kind of back that rule of 1 to 5 there.
Mm.
Yeah. So Pat Carrigan, 707k, 38 break even. For me, Pat is an outstanding buy. 63.7 average without Payne Haas. I'd probably have him as the third mid to target this week. Yeah, what are you guys' thoughts?
Um, I've been big on Pat all year. I've had him the whole year, pretty much Paddy Carrigan, and he's done me a solid job. I think he's had an absolutely consistent year, one of like Yo's year last year, only just having that couple 40s or 30s in there. But I definitely think he could be, if you just want a consistent guy who knows he's going to score you a 60 or a 70, I think Carrigan could be a good captaincy option, especially with Nathan Cleary out. Even if you want to bring him in, he'll do you a job. Paddy Carrigan will do you the job.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. It's Paddy Carrigan for me. He was on with our Blindside on our Patreon. He was a ride up for a few weeks in a row. It was just like, hey, watch his price is plummeting, his price is plummeting. And then Haas got injured, and it was like not the ideal week to buy him, but it was like, don't even hesitate, everyone jump on. And he had the buy, I think. He had one game and then the buy, obviously, last week, so he kind of looked like maybe don't jump on. But when it's Patrick Carrigan and you've played this game long enough, without Haas, he just amps up his scoring. And yeah, I think, to be honest, I've got the C still going back and forth on him and Yo. So my pod play would probably be a Carrigan captaincy. I think a lot more people will go the direction of Yo. So I don't know. At the moment, I'm on Yo, but I think Carrigan's a massive option.
Well, the reason I have Carrigan as my third buy for the week, it's because this guy's in at first. We all know what he can do. 698k, 48. I had him in my trades. Ryan Madison to Cam Murray. Reversed it when Cleary got injured. Wasn't going to use the trade. Used the trade in the end, and Cam scored an 83. That line break, 54 tackles with an offload and 254 meters. We all know what Cam can do at lock, and I think it's a no-brainer. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've got him in CHT up to Murray. I've considered going, other options. Who's going to score basically the most points in the last 3 rounds was going to be my deciding factor. But I can't turn away from making sure you have the right positional coverage. Obviously, look how bad all the injuries have been. But everywhere is pretty well covered for me, except maybe hooker I could do a bit better in. And my initial target was going to be Watson, but with the HIA, it was like, okay, I don't need any more excuse to avoid Murray. Jump on. I think he's by the week for sure.
Yeah, 100% agree. I've got Nathan Cleary to Cameron Murray, and then Ryan Madison to Joey Tarpany. So just a couple mid options there for me. But I definitely think Cameron Murray can definitely do it. We know how high he can score and how well he is, how many tackles he can make. He's a running 13 and a ball play as well. He's got a full set. So yeah, why not jump on him?
As a non-owner of Cameron Murray, I kind of hope he goes low and consider that 650k for next year would be really nice.
Oh, that would be good, wouldn't it? Just getting him cheap for next
Yeah,
season.
picture.
But my buy, my second best mid behind Murray and above Carrigan is Isaiah Yo. A great play. We all know what he can do. Also, interesting stat is without Nathan Cleary when playing at lock, that is, and playing over 70 minutes because he always plays 80 minutes. He has an average of 62.1. Priced at 58, very underpriced, but Yo, he just plucks out scores every single week. It's just 60. I think Yo, he's just one of those guys consistent. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. As I said before, it's him or Carrigan for the captaincy for me. And Yo, 82 last week. There's no Cleary this week. There's every reason why he'll go bigger. Probably my only concern with Yo is a possible rest in the late rounds. I don't like planning for that personally, because you never know who the coach is going to rest. But I think you can nearly guarantee that if you had to pick anyone to get rested in the last round, it's likely going to be Yo from the Panthers. So that would probably be my only hesitation towards going for him. But if you're looking to win a head-to-head league or just get a few extra points, or you've got the mid cover, which doesn't matter. If he's going to be out in round 27, I don't see any reason not to jump on him.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. So Jerome Hughes, bit of talk about selling him to Cleary when Cleary was coming back, but you see Hughes had an unreal season. He is my pick for the Daily M. Hasn't gone under 50 since round 21. Do you think that there's some interest now with Nathan Cleary being out, just direct swapping him to Jerome Hughes for the last 3 games with somewhat of an easy draw and a risk chance of him being rested in round 26 against the Cowboys for their trip up north?
Yeah, I see there's no better option to go Cleary to Hughes. He's been very consistent this year and has shown some bonkers scores. I don't know about putting the captaincy on him, as he can fluctuate a bit to those 40 scores. But definitely the way he's playing right now and how he's controlling that Storm side and the way they're playing, I definitely can see him as a buy, but also with the same issue as Yo. We see the Storm well ahead on top there, and he could be looking for maybe a rest, especially how injured he has been this season, how many niggles he's been playing up. So that's the only issue I've got there with Hughes. But I think a great option if you're looking for just a great direct swap, either Hughes or DC, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I agree. DCE. I think I prefer DCE over Hughes. I think Hughes for sure is in there for the Dally M this year. Like he's been so consistent throughout the whole year, and he's a massive buy. I just think with the Storm, and then it's been already publicised that they're going to look to rest players over the next 2 rounds. Like surely he's going to be one of them. You never know, which is why I hate kind of making a decision based on that. You'd hate to avoid him and him to do well for him not to even get rested. But with DCE and the Sea Eagles like pushing for finals, like needing to keep their wins up for finals and the history of strong games. Matt Burton in a similar position. They're pushing for the top 4 and finals. So there's a few other options there that likely won't get rested that I'd probably be more inclined to pivot to. But I think if you've got those other guys or you really want Hughes, there's nothing wrong with picking him up. Like he's solid scorer, even with Munster back in the side.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
100%
definitely. I
agree.
think Munster does help him too, to be honest, just because he gets to run the ball more. But so in 2024, without Nathan Cleary at fullback, Dylan Edwards averages 62.4 with conversion kicking and an unreal pod percentage in the top 5,000. Is Dylan Edwards a no-brainer in that wing fullback position?
Yeah, absolutely, man. 100%. I'm super. I to be blatantly honest, that's the play I want to make this week. I want to go CHT to Edwards. I think I might be a couple of grand short. Either way, I can just go Cleary to Edwards. Like it's a very, very strong consideration. It does leave me a bit less of a coverage in the mids if something goes wrong, or whatever. But far out, it's going to be so hard to watch Dylan Edwards play these last few rounds. But in saying that, he could be one on the line to get rested. They've got fullbacks in the club. They've got Laurie and Aongi, I'm pretty sure his name is. Don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but those guys have played this season. So I don't see any hesitation in making sure he's fresh. That would probably be my only scare with going to Edwards.
Yeah, I've never been big on Edwards. I remember last year he struggled with the scores, especially with those meters gains. I struggled with scores just as a fullback, but this year he's definitely proved to be that force and just hasn't dropped in money. I thought he would get down that 600K, might be a snag, but he's just stayed up towards that 800K and been so consistent. So if you're looking for a consistent guy, that wing fullback that's not going to fluctuate scores, I reckon Tommy Turbo Edwards is your man.
Yeah, I definitely have what's his face? Edwards is a very good pod. But I also have this guy as a very, very, very spicy pod. Hear me out. At Sean Johnson Stadium, 2 rounds left in his career for one of the greatest halfbacks New Zealand has ever seen. I think the game will miss him. We all know what he can do. Am I crazy, or is it Sean Johnson's last 2 weeks in the team?
Nah, I don't reckon. We were talking on the Chip and Chase podcast about how they could get 50,000 to that stadium. At Go Media Stadium, Sean Johnson Stadium. So I reckon he's going to have an absolute blinder. He's just going to rewind the clock, go through all the memories. It's just going to be like a timeline how he plays. So I think it's an absolute sneaky pot, in my opinion. Easy buy. Pick him up now, everyone. Mark our words.
Yeah. Oh, damn. I hate being the crash at a party. But nah. But I think obviously 100% he's got pod potential, massive pod potential. The break even and all that crap doesn't really matter at this point of the season. You're looking for who's going to score the most points. And in saying that, I don't think Sean Johnson's that just because he misses round 27. That's my only hesitation. And you know what? It really sucks because he's one of my favorite players. So it's going to suck not having him. And I'm tempted to just get him. And who cares? Because it's the last time I'm ever going to be able to get him. But I'm definitely tuning into the game. I won't miss a second of it.
Yeah, it's I mean, he's been in my team for as many years as I can remember, even when he was at the Sharks. But I think it's kind of just a fairy tale you're bringing him in just for the sake of bringing him in. Like there's no real thing screaming him out as a buy. But Zach Lomax, 659K. You said he was a very interesting pod on your YouTube live. What are your thoughts here? Bit up and down with the scoring, but I do think with that draw and the Dragons needing to win pretty much every game to make the 8, that I'm very, very interested in Zach Lomax, and we all know how he can score.
He's massive to me. again with our Patreon stuff, with like we do heaps of additional write-ups on players, and that it was him and Holmes, and a lot of people went the Holmes route because he was cheaper. They could use their money elsewhere, but now with Holmes on the buy, it's like, he's not. If you add up from now all the way until the run home, Lomax plays more games. He's got the goal kicking. He pretty much presents the exact same option, except he's on the wing, rather than in the centers. And I don't know, there's something about Lomax. He either goes really low, like he can score in the 20s, but he can go massive. Like I think you can see, is that the Lomax there? Yeah, he's got 103 this year.
Yeah.
So he can go massive. I don't
Off Origin.
we haven't seen Holmes go that big yet, but yeah, I don't know. I just think the other temptation is that he's super low ownership in the top 5,000. And I think if you're taking a punt on him for the last 3 rounds, just hoping that he gets something massive or he's at least got a 50 average, he's pretty solidly going to get that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's guys like Jermaine Osako and Greg Marzou who I sort of compare Lomax to. It's just those wingers. I just don't like picking up wingers in my side just for that fluctuating reason. It could be the end of my head-to-head season. Like I don't want to take that risk in the season, especially for head-to-head. I'm looking for the championship. So
Yeah, especially considering after your team's tough loss last week in the head-to-head comp to pretty much the greatest fantasy player that ever blessed the earth. But all good.
Love it.
go in early in the season, mate.
So another centre wing fullback duel, Joey Manu, 527k. Again, an interesting pod and someone that I think is probably more of a buy than Zach Lomax just because he's cheaper. Could be rested in round 27, but I mean, we all know what Joey can do at centre. Joey, are you interested in him at all?
Yeah, for sure. I think if you compare Manu and Lomax together, he's definitely presented as a stronger option. I think the only downside is that doesn't have the base that Lomax has with the goal kicking, which, it's all dependent on whether the team scores tries. And if anyone's going to score points out of those two sides, I think it's the Roosters. And Manu's usually front and center of that. So I think, yeah, he's definitely strong. There's a risk there with the rest in round 27, but something tells me that they might not rest him, just because he's been injured and out for a lot of the season. But again, it doesn't seem to really matter when it comes to that with coaches. I think sometimes they more rest them just to avoid anything possibly happening, so that they've got assurance for the finals. So I think, yeah, that's the only risk. I think he's going to go back to what we've seen at the start of the season, and he's so cheap. I'm half hoping he stays this cheap because he'll be straight in my side for 2025.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, not much to add to that. Yeah.
So you see Dane Gagai again in the centres. He's had an unreal season, been a fantasy gun for ages. 60 break even. Yeah, Callan, do you think he's a buy at all in the centre position or not really?
I still think he is a buy. I tried to pick him up last week until I realized I did have Jack Howarth on my emergencies just to try and win my head-to-head and hold on there. But I definitely think Dan Gagai, he can be consistent at times. We've seen he's gone up to like 700k this year or something ridiculous. He can go on runs from 50s to 60s. Is an absolute tackle bust. Freaking gets through work unnoticed. Like his run meters might not be there, but the points all come from the tackle bust there. As you see, 10, 8, 8, 8, 11, 5, 5, 10. Like that's value for money in my opinion, just in that stat there. And we know, hopefully Ponga and him have a bit of connection on that right edge. I think he's playing, but yeah, I do think Gagai is definitely an option going home, and I think he's more of a consistent guy that I'd rather pick up over Manu just because of that rest period. I think Gagai is a better option.
Yeah, the only thing for me is with Gagai is just his missed tackle number is kind of probably the centre that misses the most tackles in the centre position, but that's probably the only red flag I got about him.
Yeah, I don't think there's much either way for me, which is probably why I wouldn't jump into him personally. I just think that probably the only thing that's holding me back now is that the Knights are not likely to play finals. They've got some pretty well, they don't have hard matchups, but they've got losable matchups, and I think he could be worth the punt. But you've got people like say Lomax and Manu up against him, that I would probably be more enticed. I'd be more enticed by them myself, especially because Manu's got the DPP. But I guess in saying that, Gagai is probably not going to worry about a rest. So you've got him for 3 rounds, and look, he's pretty solid. I wouldn't talk anyone out of buying him.
Yeah, I
My
agree.
God, Cleary 100% ownership in the top
So-
100.
First of all, I'd just like to check in on my good mate. After the Dragons round in round 21, how are you feeling, Jai? You know, with that big anti-potting strategy and that. Just wanted to check in, and every day could be "Are you okay?" day. So are you
Yeah.
okay?
Well, look, yeah, I was fine. I think it comes with the territory. I copped so much crap. Like, oh, what you guys see on the public stuff was one thing, but the DMs, man, is insane. I got one death threat from some guy in New Zealand, and told me I shouldn't go to Mount Smart Stadium, or I should say goodbye to my family before I leave. So it was like,
yeah.
oh wow, okay. Some people are really passionate about my call. But in saying that, look what's happened. He got injured. So if I
I
had
did write
ran
that
with the
in the article,
strategy
to be
myself,
fair. That it was
yeah.
injured.
So it's just the
Yeah.
risk. The risk of injury was there. It didn't happen when I predicted it, but it happened eventually. But in saying that, look, 98.54% of the most competitive players in the game this year all owned him. So it's not like you lost out if you bought him. It's like everyone's in the same boat now, except for 0.8% of the top 1,000 players who don't own him have got a slight pot advantage. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a shame. I love seeing Cleary on the field.
Yeah,
but
I
he's
did the same as you, Joe.
definitely so.
Didn't get him. Hold off to him till last round. I was like, oh, I got to get him. He's going great, and then he gets injured. So
Yeah, it sucks. It's no good. It's he's set and forget. He's the Cameron Smith of the modern era.
So Eero is on the top of the sell list at 628k. Well, it's maybe second top of the sell list, but yeah, we all know what he can do in the center position. Do you think that it is really crazy to be selling Eero if you have the trades too?
100%.
Yeah.
I would not be pivoting an hero. No way in the world. He's just reliable. I can understand that, like, yeah, you bought him as a cash cow and he's made all this cash. Let's upgrade him to a known gun. But there is those like diamonds in the rough, like say Galvin and Nero, who start off as like base price, and then they just keep making cash through the season and justifying a hold until the point where it's like, oh, you start to run out of trades or you're running out of moves, and then they just turn into keepers. And I think Eero is 100% that guy. I wouldn't be looking to move him on at all.
Yeah, and
100%.
just talking about the Sharkies quickly, is there a chance that you look to hold Nathan Cleary for this week, make a massive, massive, massive pod play, and bring in Nico Hines next week at all?
Wait, I would be lying if I say I haven't considered it. The only thing for me with Hines is that there is a chance he doesn't play next week, which would stuff up that whole play. So in my head, I'm thinking, if Hines comes back next week, there is a very strong chance that he can go massive and outscore someone who's got 3 games on him. Like 2 games versus 3 games against Nico Hines versus basically anyone else that's available in the comp. There's a chance there that he could still outscore a 3, except maybe the likes of Yo or Carrigan might outdo him. But in general sense, no one's going to own him, especially for head-to-head. I think it's a head-to-head play. If you want to win your last 2 games, more so than an overall play. But look, I'm not going to do it myself, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't thinking about it.
Yeah, no, I'm staying away.
If I had trades left, I'd be very, very interested. That is.
Yeah.
Josh Curran, 610k, 49. Break even. Got injured. Is Josh just a sell now to one of those bigger gun middles?
Yeah, I think you can pivot him.
Yeah.
Look, he's still playing, so I think it's not a must trade. But especially if you've got low trades, if you've got the trades in the bank, like there's no way in the world I consider holding him. He's gone down for the last 3 games with an ace, like holding his AC joint, and he looks like he's in so much pain when he does it. And they just keep playing him the next week, so he's definitely not 100%. And look, he's not really putting out scores that justify like keeping him for good, especially at his price range. It's only going to cost you less than 100K to grab Murray.
Yeah,
Yeah.
If you've got 88K left, you can grab Cameron Murray, and that's a really good upgrade.
Yeah, people are trying to
Mm.
pivot. Cleary got a heap of money in the
Yeah.
bank.
Yeah.
I like it selling him. So Scott Drinkwater 645K, 42 break even. Yeah, Scott, is he a sell or not real? Like not really. Like we all know what Scott can do. I think that Scott's just definitely a hold because he's also on high on the sell list also.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think a lot of these people that are moving him on are just looking to spend trades that they have or to make sure they can field a full team or whatever. Like there'll be reasons why people are pivoting the likes of of Iro and Drinkwater, but to me, Drinkwater is a hold. The only way you could justify moving him on is if you don't own, say, Tedesco or you don't own Edwards and you want Edwards, something massive in upgrade terms like that. Otherwise, yeah, I wouldn't touch it myself. I think he's definitely a hold more so than a sell.
Yeah, he's been killing it recently.
Yeah.
So is there anyone in that boat that you would really look to sell from that Cowboys team?
Oh,
Not many people
nah.
own many Cowboys except Drinky. Yeah, I don't really see anyone unless you're still holding on to Ruben Cotter.
Yeah,
Highly
I
doubt.
think Ruben Cotter is a hold. Like, yeah, the guys that would consider buys, I wouldn't consider selling personally. I'd say the only two relevant people in that team at the moment, largely relevant, is Drinkwater and Cotter, and then you've got Holmes as a pod play. Outside of that, like I don't own any Cowboys, and I have no incentive to reach out and grab one. Obviously this week with the buy, but I haven't owned a Cowboy since I sold Cotter,
Well,
which
yeah,
was before Origin. Yeah.
we see how vocal Todd Payton is about resting his players, and we definitely saw that last week. So I definitely think they're into the eight. I don't mark my words, unless they lose 3 straight, I think that'll knock them out. They're 2 wins into the 8. So I think if they get a couple more wins, they got the bye. So it's possible to them to knock out of the 8. But if they win their next match in round 26, I definitely think they'll be resting a couple players.
So let me just rant quickly. I think I owe him a season to this guy. Picked him up in round 12. Jacob has absolutely killed it, and I can't believe what he's done. What a player he is. Do you guys still think that Jacob is a buy as a very pod hooker?
100%. Yeah, there's no way in the world you'd avoid him. If you're looking for a hooker, it's him and Cook. They're the guys you want to own. And I'd actually probably say I think Cook's going to finish higher in terms of price at the end of the year, but I think Jacob Little's the best hooker in the game at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I love him.
Big call. We talked about how good he was through the grades and how he's come up and just hasn't found his moment, but he's finally is. And I think definitely next season, if I'm looking for that Grant kind of person that I was at the start of this year, some consistent guy, I'm definitely looking towards the Little instead of Cook. I think he's just been so consistent
They'll
there.
be in the same team.
Oh yeah, they will.
So, I do have a quick question for you, Jai. When I picked Little, did you think I was a fantasy goat after? And just considering how long he's done it for, I think it was probably it was a no-brainer in my eyes.
Oh, look, I think that was the first time we'd actually communicated, like in terms of like our brands, and then we're just talking about buys and sells, and you were like, "What do you think about Jacob Little?" There was someone else you threw in there as well. I think it was Alex Twile, yeah. And I was like, "Oh," like I looked at them both, and I hadn't really paid much attention, and I was like, "Oh, not really Twile," but then I was just like, "Dude, Little, he's very interesting," and then I was like, "Oh." No, I'm going Marnie. I'm gonna go safe and stay with Marnie. And then I was like, the very next round, I think I messaged you. He scored 70 odd points, and I was like, my God, dude, how'd you pick that up? And then I just thought, nah, he's not going to be consistent. And then he's just literally been consistent ever since. So I think it was a massive play.
Yeah, I think if you want to win it, you gotta have some of those seasons in there. But Jerome Luai, last one could be running out of time. 627K, 79 break even, playing at 7. Very interested in Jerome, and I think he'll do a very good job. Do you think that he is a very interesting pod half to replace Nathan Cleary with?
Definitely a
For
pod.
sure. Yeah, he's got literally not owned in the top 5,000. It doesn't get any more potty than that. And I think he did very well without Cleary. Again, though, he could be up for the rest in round 27. That would be my only fear. To be honest, that little smoky, I think, is Ben Hunt. I think Ben
Yeah.
Hunt
Yeah.
is right up there for a half pod at the moment. A lot of people will overlook him. But dude, if I had one more trade, he'd literally be the guy I'm buying. So
Yeah,
yeah.
but cheers, guys, and we'll see you in part 2.